Hello to you, boys and girls. As you can probably hear from the plane going overhead and the general noise, the ambience that you can hear today coming across in our little fun segment today. Yes, once again, we are out in the garden. I say once again because we haven't been out in the garden for a while now, have we? Because it's been quite cloudy. But indeed, the nice weather has returned to the United Kingdom, and actually we've had quite a few days of very nice sunshine, which is of course very good for the old solar panels that are generating electricity as we speak on the show today. A warm welcome along to you. This is Chris Reardon with today's United Kingdom Talk. As an email address to the show, it's chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Right, chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Now it does sound, listen, it does sound like someone is out here somewhere today doing a little bit of DIY. Can you hear that? I tell you what, actually, I bet it's the neighbour who... Oh, he stopped now. Oh no, there it goes again. I hope we're not going to have that throughout the whole show. It's not putting you off, is it? Eh? Now, talking of outside noises, regular listeners to the show will know that they have been waiting for my outside sounds, I don't know what you'd call it now, my outside sounds recording to be put up online. Now, I do believe you've been waiting since April. Well, I'm glad to say at last it's there. Now, go and grab a pen, because I'm going to tell you where to find it. What I did, if you're new to the show, well, we've got some new listeners today, actually, and viewers, and I'll read out a couple of, a lot of emails to get through, so we're going to have to go on straight those. You knew I was going to say that anyway, didn't you? So we'll have to go straight to those in a second or two. But back in, I think it was April, May time, I live in Bracknell in Berkshire, and where I am, it's reasonably quiet. Not today, right, as you can hear, because people are doing DIY. But certainly, first thing in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, it's always pretty quiet around here. It's actually usually quiet during the daytime as well. But obviously someone's doing DIY. And back in April, May time, I got my my special microphone, my all-in-one, highly expensive recording unit, and I stuck it in the garden, making sure, of course, first of all, that there wasn't going to be any rain. And I switched it on. Now, I started the recording at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I finished about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9:30, something like that. I think it was about 5 hours altogether. Anyway, can you hear the noise today? Now, we've got an ice cream van. You can't. You see, maybe we should have gone in the studio. No, we like it outside. We need to spend more time outside now, dears, because we're running out of summer. I say we're running out of summer. The colour hasn't changed yet. You know, the colour of the light changes between summer and autumn, and it's all of a sudden. 1 minute it's a bit yellow, then it's a bit white. Well, I'm pleased to tell you it's still yellow at the moment, all right? So don't worry. No need to send sunshine over that. You lucky people in Australia, it's just turning into your spring now, isn't it? I know, dear. See, I know these things. Anyway, back to the subject. So I recorded, like birds singing and general noise from the garden for those 5 hours. Well, ever since then, I've been meaning to edit it out a little bit, because there was a couple of bits where it's a crash and a bang, and I'm not quite sure what that is. The only thing I can think of it was one of the cats mucking around next to it. Also, right in the middle, I think somewhere, you can hear a bird flapping, lots of birds singing, and just general noises of the English countryside, okay? Recorded the whole thing in my garden, April, May time. It is now up online for you to download and listen to as you please. Now remember, it's a 5-hour recording. Now, me being me, I have to do it in reasonably good quality, so it's also a fairly large file. Those technical people up there may want to know this. I do believe it's about 500 meg altogether. I think. I'm not 100% sure of that. Joy's wondering what that means. Okay, the size of a file Now, you don't know what a file is. Okay, the sound I've recorded has made a file, Joy. Okay, so it is a sound file. Now, files are big or they are small. Now, this one is big. Why does that matter? Because it will take people longer to get it onto their computers. The smaller the file, the quicker people can get it onto their computers. It also depends on how fast their internet thing is running as well. So it is quite a large file. You may probably, I would guess, if you've got any of your player software set up correctly, I would have thought you're able to stream it as well. Now, I'm going to tell you where to find it now. You ready? If you want to... And all it is country sounds. Birds singing, a few planes going overhead, and stuff like probably a dog barking. You might hear someone walking past the back fence around about 8 o'clock. Well, what would have been about 8 o'clock in the morning. If you want to have a listen to that, and you've got 5 hours to spare, you should find it fairly therapeutic. I quite like listening to birds singing when I'm going to sleep. I've got a radio station we have here in the UK at the moment called Birdsong, but it's the same tape. Okay, the tape or the audio thing that they play on Birdsong is only about an hour and a half long, and it keeps going round and round. I'm tempted to go and get an ice cream now. Are you? Listen to it. Do you have those where you are? Ice cream vans. Oh, we love them. Nothing better than a 99, dear. I said a 99. A 60 please, a 99. That's an ice cream with a flake in it. Rather. We like those. Right, here's where to find the file. Go to my main website, chrisreardon.co.uk. All right? That's my main sort of personal website, chrisreardon.co.uk. On the left-hand side, you will find, written in yellow, I think it is, Berkshire Sounds. Or it might be, was it Bracknell Sounds? I think it says Berkshire Sounds, or something very similar to that, Berkshire Sounds. Actually, when I finish the show, I'll go up there and make sure it does, let me just to make a note of that. I shall go upstairs and make sure it does say Berkshire Sounds. Let me write that down. Just click on that and hopefully it will just play straight into your computer. If it doesn't, you might have to save it first. So what you've got to do then is, I think it's right click and save as to somewhere on your computer. Okay, now most people will know how to do this. If you have any trouble doing it at all, please email me and let me know and I'll help you do it. Now remember, this isn't like a talking show. There's no music or anything like that on it. All it is country sounds, birds singing, dogs barking, perhaps people in the background walking past, and general other noises that were recorded in my garden a few months ago. Okay, so once again, where to find that is chrisreardon.co.uk, and on the left hand side just go down until you find where it says Berkshire Sounds. Alright, and see what you think of that. Now I'm hoping, actually I've got to be honest, I'm hoping not too many people download it, because I can only, you can only do that a certain amount of times. It is quite a large number of times, but this is a bit of a risk because I'm never quite sure how many people are going to try and download that and listen to it. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. If you do click on that, or if you go to chrisreardon.co.uk and you get some sort of error message come up, it means I've run out of bandwidth, and I'll try and sort that out if it happens. I don't think it will, but there is a small chance that might happen, so fingers crossed it doesn't. Once again, go to my main website, chrisreardon.co.uk. On the left hand side, just go down to Berkshire Sounds, click on there, and it'll take you to the sounds of my garden. I know I've been sitting on that for about 6 or 7 months, haven't I, waiting for it to happen. So I hope you enjoy that little thing for you there. I went to the dentist. Yes, he's been to the dentist, and guess what? No fillings. But still, £51, dear. $102. £51. First of all, the hygienist, as always, as I always mention, there she is. She gets this rusty old nail out thing, starts scratching away at my teeth. I said to my nephew, I said, you could have come round and done that. You know, I've got a few sharp screwdrivers and things in the shed next to me. He can come around, scrape all the scale off. Where does all this scale come? Do you know I have to go now every 3 months, the dentist said. I have to go to the hygienist. Scratch, scratch, scratch. And then she gets that horrible thing, which it's like a little bit of metal, and it's got a hook, like a thin hook on the end of it, and she's in there under the gums, scraping away, and then every now and again, she does that with she does that, scrapes out your teeth or under your gum, and around me, I have she puts a tissue, some sort of paper tissue around. Every now and again, she wipes it on that. God. Oh, it's horrible. So I've been to the dentist. So after the hygienist, I went to the dentist. He was in there poking around, and he says, oh, can you feel that? And I said no. He said, oh, that's okay then. And then when he finished looking around, he says, well, might need a filling or possibly a crown on one of your teeth down there. It's wearing down a bit thin. We'll see how it goes. And no other work to be done this time, so not too bad. But he has recommended I go and see the periodontist. Now, she's the one, or she or he, is the one that looks after your gums, because a couple of my gums are worn down quite far. Now, the reason for that is incorrect brushing, according to them. You never get it right, can you? So how do you think that happens, eh? Apparently, I brush too hard. You can't win. You just can't win. You think you're doing right, and you're not. And once again, so he's moaning about that. So I'm going to have to go and see the periodontist. And she's another 50 quid just for a consultation. I'm in the wrong job, aren't I? I swear I'm in the wrong job. So that's the dentist news. Gotta say, no pain. Actually, funny thing is, the woman I was sitting in the, I've got something to lean on today. A little plant next to me. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Yeah, I was waiting for my turn, and this woman came down. She was holding her face. And she paid her money, which was quite a lot. She paid £350, 700 American dollars. So she's there, and I said, well, that's a lot of money. What you had done? She says, oh, I've just had a crown done. Such a lot of money for such a lot of pain. And I thought to myself, that telling someone that before they're about to go in, you don't want to know that. So, of course, when I went up to the dentist, I said to him, I was talking to the lady downstairs, she just had a crown. He said, oh, yes. I said, she said it was hurting a lot. What happened there, then? He said, oh, I can't really discuss other patients. I thought, I bet you can't, dear. Otherwise, you won't have any more, will you? So, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. That's it. Something came up then. I don't know what that was. I hope it wasn't a burp. Matty in Australia doesn't like me to burp, do you? I do that. Apparently I did that on another show, which I didn't even notice the air leave my body. All right, so that's the dentist news. Now, if you're wondering why there is a plant, I'll tell you. There is a plant next to me today. Those of you watching can see it. Those of you listening cannot see it, but you might be able to hear it. Listen. Can you hear that? That's me stroking my new plant because I think it was Wednesday last week. I thought, right, I'm going to go down and see Mum and Dad's grave today. So I got in my little car, and first of all, I went to the garden centre because I like to do up the grave in the autumn and in the spring. And now we're just coming into the autumn. So I went down the garden centre, bought some lovely plants. Let me think. I bought winter pansies, petunias, and I bought this plant. I bought it's a shrub actually, which I was gonna put in the grave as well, in the in the flower bit in the grave. But after I'd put all the other plants in, there wasn't really any more. Always a little insect there. After I put all the other plants in, there wasn't really enough space for this. So I've brought it home and put it in a pot. Now it does say on the instructions, now it is outside at the moment, light to sunny position, can be kept indoors or put outside in the summer. Do not allow soil to... So I'm a little bit worried that it might die in the winter. I could really bring it in, I suppose, couldn't I? Anyway, it's a lovely plant. It's dark green leaves with like a light green around the outside of the leaves, and it's got little purple flowers which the bees seem to love. I heard on the news that there's a shortage of bees, but certainly not in my garden. And they never bother you, do they? Bees. I've sat here before doing a show, you know, out here in the garden, and I've had lots of I've got the little pink flowers next to me on the floor here, okay, and these are often surrounded by bees going in and out collecting their pollen and that sort of thing, and they never ever bother me. They never attack bees. I don't know why people are so worried about bees. It's wasps. Horrible, horrible. Oh, talking of wasps, there was a massive one a couple of days ago in my kitchen buzzing at the window. It must have come in somehow and got stuck in the window. It was going up and down. I thought, I can hear a wasp. And I looked, and this thing was massive. I've never seen this biggest wasp I have ever seen. I don't know where it came from. And I thought, you know, I don't like to kill anything really, insects, whatever, but I did feel threatened by this one. Okay, so I'm sorry the hoover came out. The hoover came out, and in all honesty, it was a job to get the wasp. I mean, this hoover, it was switched on and it was right over the wasp. It was having terrible trouble sucking the thing in, dear. Oh, it's awful. Anyway, eventually it went down the hoover. It went like that. Yeah, you know when you get an insect? Have you ever done that with your hoover? It's very difficult to catch one, actually. Not a hoover, an insect here. You ever try and catch a fly with your hoover? It's really hard. And be careful while you're waving this thing along. You don't go for a window or something like that. Anyway, so I got this, and I could see it got the wasp at one point, and the wasp was dearly trying to cling on to the end of this hoover, and then suddenly, as it went down the tube, like that. So then I get very nervous that the wasp is at some point going to fly back out of the hoover, you see. I mean, it could happen. It's all very worrying, really. So I then started hoovering the house, thinking to myself that if I just hoover bits and pieces, then all this stuff shooting down the hoover will eventually hit the wasp and knock the thing out, and that'd be the end of that. So I did that for about 10 minutes, and then I finished, and then I put the hoover in the corner, and I thought, oh my God, you know, that was a big one. You don't want to bump into a wasp like that in the dark. It reminded me of those, do you remember the wasps? Anyone watched Doctor Who? They had a great big wasp on there. Do you remember that? Was it this year or last year, that one? Oh, I can't remember now. No, I can't remember. Anyway, so I'm thinking about this, and I think, oh, I'm not happy with this hoover now in the house. So I then took the hoover outside, and I've got a Dyson, okay? So it's got that clear, like a clear, where all the dust goes. What's that? Like a clear compartment, like that you can see through, and you can see all the dust. So I've got this hoover outside, and I'm now looking in this glass bit, tapping it. I'm tapping the plastic thing where the glass is in, because I can see the dust, but I can't see the wasp. And I thought, well, it must be dead now, you know, otherwise it would be flying around in there, wouldn't it? So I thought, I'm still not happy. I'm going to have to empty the hoover. Now, I'd already emptied it a couple of days before. I'm not one of these people. Oh, you must see them in their houses, dear. Oh, it's awful. You see these people, and they've got a hoover full of dust, and you wonder, when is the last time that was emptied? I can't be doing with that, I'm sorry. I can't be having a full-up hoover. Horrible. Oh, is that a duck? Is that a duck? Yeah, hello to you too. Obviously a fan. So every couple of, at least once a week, I empty the hoover. So there's not much in there. So all there was really in the hoover was the dust that I'd collected that day, and somewhere hiding, lurking amongst the dust, must be that great big fat wasp, right? So I then undid the top part of the hoover, and I carefully, at arm's length, removed the compartment that holds all the dust, which is actually quite large. I mean, it's the biggest part of the hoover, you know, it's a great big plastic clear thing. And I looked, and there was no movement. So then out here in the garden, I then tipped it up and tapped it on the top to retrieve any stuck dust at the bottom of the compartment. So there it is. So I removed it, and there it is, not on the grass area, but on the earth, in the borders where I had a spare piece of earth. I'm now examining, looking for movement, and there was none. And I looked for yellow of a wasp, well, because they're yellow, aren't they? I could see no yellow. So I then went to my shed and got a spade and started just moving the dust. And there it was, that big fat wasp, and it was moving. I thought any minute now it's going to realise what I've done and it's going to attack me. I'm sorry, but I then got the spade. I then trod on it a couple of times. It's an awful thing to do. I don't like killing things at all, but this one, I did feel threatened by this particular wasp. I then stood on it, and I only had my slippers on. I got my slippers on today. I only had my slippers on. I stood on it a few times, and it was still moving. I thought this must be an indestructible wasp. So I'm afraid I then got the spade and chopped its head off. I mean, I thought I was in Iraq for a moment, chopping heads off. I chopped, I'm sorry about that one. Was that un-PC? Oh, get a life and get a sense of humour. So I chopped the wasp's head off. Can you believe the body was still moving? So I then went out and got my shoes and I crushed it, and that was it. So there we are. Be warned, if you do get a wasp up the hoover, it doesn't always kill them. If I hadn't done that, it could have crawled. Surely it could have crawled back up the hoover pipe and back into my house, and it would have seeked me out. It would have seeked, it would have sought after me, wouldn't it? With its evil, poisoned end. So saved from the wasp. Now, how did we get onto the subject of wasps? Oh, that's right. I was telling you about the plants, wasn't I, for Mum and Dad's grave. So I got petunias, pansies. I put those in the ground. And I also picked up a couple of bags of bulbs. Now, what did I get? Oh, I got miniature daffodils and snowdrops. And when I do the grave, it tends to be quite sort of even. So if you've got like a rectangle type thing, then it'll be flower bulb, a bit like that, rather than leaving it to grow wild, as indeed a lot of my garden is, because I quite like the wildness. Certainly in the corner I'm sitting at the moment, I never do anything to this bit other than keep it from coming too far forward. So I did that, and then when I finished, I realised I almost forgot to put the bulbs in, actually. Well, it was a lovely day I had. Really nice day, because first I left here, was about 11:30 in the morning. First of all, I went to the garden centre to pick up those bits and pieces. Oh, and also some big bags of earth as well. They do this earth in there. There's actually quite light. I've actually got some in the plant here. And what they seem to do is mix bits of wood with it as well, which is all very good. And it makes the earth nice and light. It's only £6 a bag. So I think I got 4 bags of earth in the end. Because also, I remember the last time I went to the grave, I thought, well, it needs a bit more earth doing, because it's not been changed for a few years. From there, I went to the grave, and I put, as I say, I put the petunias, the winter pansies. I got yellow and purple, and the miniature daffodils. I nearly forgot to put those in, and the snowdrops. Then I remembered I wanted to have some. I always buy a bunch of flowers, and I forgot to get those at the garden centre. So I then went to Asda, which is right next to the graveyard. Asda, they're one of our big supermarkets here. And while I was in there, I had a lovely lunch, actually, because I do lunches in Asda. Very, very good value. I had lasagna and chips, and dare I tell you, baked beans as well. I had a cup of tea, and that was £5. £5, $10 for that, which I think is excellent value, and lovely food as well. Really nice people in there. The only thing is there were only 2 people serving, and they really needed a third one just to do the till, because these 2 ladies were serving the food and doing the till as well. They should have had someone separate on the till, so it was a bit of a wait, but I was only standing there about 5 or 6 minutes, so not too bad. Really nice meal in there. After that, I went round Asda and had a look at some bits and pieces in there, done some shopping, and got my mum a bunch of flowers. Again, the flowers in Asda I find a particularly good value for money. I think I got a bunch of the white chrysanthemums, that was it, and that was £2 £2.88 for that, which is brilliant. In the garden centre, I think they were 3 bunches for £6, which sounds better, but they were tiny bunches. My God, they were small. And I thought, no, that's not value, but the Asda ones were, I thought, particularly good value. So I went back to the grave, put those on there, and I suddenly realised I always buy too many plants. Always. And too many bulbs. So I've still got, I suppose if the bag was 100%, I've still got 60% worth of bulbs left. And just a few. It sounds like someone's block of flats here. Just a few graves down, with 2 elderly ladies. Lovely pair of ladies they were, and they were looking at someone's grave. I said, "Excuse me, would you like some daffodil bulbs?" And she looked up. She said, "Oh yes, please." And she'd also got a very nice grave there. And so I gave her some bulbs, and she was quite appreciative. Then I watered all the grave, and of course I was left with this plant as well as some other petunias and pansies that were left over. So after I finished that and had a little chat, do you have a chat to people in graves? What's that now going over? Oh, I know, that's one of those learning. We have a little aerodrome here, Blackbush Airport. It's just a small little tiny where private jets and that set off from, and you can go and learn to fly there. I had a flying lesson there a couple of years ago. Do you remember I told you about that? Blimey, 2 years ago that was. I can't believe that was 2 years. Anyway, so finished off there, came back, watered, give the grave a good water, done the earth as well, and then I think that was it really. Sat there, talked to my mum and dad for a little while. And I did have a cream apple turnover that also I bought from Asda, but I was a bit disappointed with that. Actually, it was a bit of a case of find the apple. You know, there was about 3 chunks of apple in there. It was hard. It was all pastry and cream, and it was horrible. And I actually bought, it was a package of 2. I chucked the other one away. It was horrible. Didn't like that at all. So finished that, came back here, and with the extra plants I decided, well, I'll renew the hanging baskets now for winter, so they're all done because the summer ones are all dying out now. I also put some of the other petunias and the bulbs in a couple of large pots there, and I was also left, as I was telling you right at the beginning of the show, with this rather nice plant, which has got little purple flowers, tiny little purple flowers, and it's got green, dark green and light green leaves, and it's looking rather marvellous. Now, a bit actually broke off in the car on the way home, so what I did was I wondered if I could make another plant out of these 2. Now, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Mum was forever growing busy lizzies and geraniums in jars of water. And she was always doing that, always taking cuttings and growing more. And she'd keep these going all the way through the winter on the windowsill in the kitchen. So what I've done to see which one works, I took one part of it and put it in a small pot of earth, right? And I keep that very wet, because especially when cuttings are first done, I do feel that they need a lot of water. And the other one, I'll just lean over here. Let me just pick it up here. All right, there we are. And the other one, I've put in a little jar of water. And we'll see which one grows. Maybe they both grow, maybe they both won't grow, and we'll see which one goes. But I thought I'd sit next to a rather nice plant today with little purple flowers. The bees seem to love these particular flowers for some reason. Very pretty. Anyway, so that's a few days of my week so far. Don't forget the email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. All right then, boys and girls, let's go on to the emails. First of all, a new viewer who says, hi Chris, just wanted to say I love this show and joy for life. Thank you very much. How do you keep so positive and upbeat? Don't know. The thought, how do I keep so positive and upbeat? What does it for me? Making people smile, I think. perhaps sharing stories. That's what does it for me. Sharing stories and trying to make people smile and think. Yeah, that's what does it for me, and I think that's what keeps me positive. So I get depressed, same as everyone else. I get depressed, but I wouldn't show it to you. I could be terribly depressed at the moment, but you won't see it, and it might come back as soon as I turn the camera off. But actually, I'm not at the moment. I'm quite reasonably happy at the moment. Lots of things going on. Got the new job as well in Hammersmith, couple of nights there, and yeah, so fairly positive and upbeat at the moment. Yes, yeah, so, I don't know, I try and see good things. Doesn't always work, so as I say, you know, we all get depressed now and again. We do. He says, I read you visited your parents' grave, and you obviously get great comfort from that. Oh yes, I put a little message on the Facebook, didn't I? I lost my dad 6 years ago, so know that feeling of loss. I don't know how I will cope when my mum passes. Anyway, you're an inspiration. I wish I had a friend like you. Best wishes from Lee. All right, Lee. So, welcome to the show, Lee. Your dad, 6 years ago. Well, as you know, I've lost mum and dad now. It's something that you never get over. However, you learn to live with it. Now, I've said this a few times when we've had emails on the show this year, and you do doing a show like this, you do get a little bit close to your listeners sometimes. And indeed, I have to tell you, as you're a new listener, you won't know, but 3 of our dear friends and loyal listeners have lost their mothers this year. 3. And it all happens within the first few months of the year. And I will say the same to you as I say to them, is that when you lose someone close like that, you never get over it. However, somehow, I don't know how, you learn to live with it. And you know, Lee, there's nothing wrong with talking to someone who's not here anymore. Probably when you're on your own you want to do that. Not maybe when you're walking around the supermarket in front of people, although you could if you wanted to. But quite often, at home, perhaps, or in the car, I might have a conversation with my parents. And you know, Lee, if you listen, sometimes they answer back. Try it. Have a little chat to your dad and see what happens. See if you can hear him answering things in your head. Sometimes you have to sit there and listen carefully. And then sometimes, sure enough, I bet you'll hear things. It's the voices. Honestly, see, and as your mum as well. Yeah. For a long time, while mum was alive, I wondered what it would be like when she died. Of course, I never told her this. You don't want to be worrying your parents with something like that. But yeah, for a long time I worried, and then it happened. Was it anything like I thought it would be? No. Felt a complete, total numbness, really. We'd done the crying and all that. Still do it now, really, to be honest. Still do it now. But again, it's something I don't think I've ever got over. However, I have learnt to live with it. I talk to mum quite a lot. Always just before I go to sleep. And quite often at other times as well. Maybe I want her opinion on something. I might ask her just before I go to sleep, perhaps to try and let me know in a dream. So, I don't think you should worry too much about how things will be when your mum passes, Lee. I also don't think that you should tell her that you're worried about that, because that tends to worry them. And the last thing you ever want to do is worry your mum. I mean, I've had a few troubles earlier on in my life, in my 20s, a failed relationship, and not once did I worry my mum or dad about what was going on. I tried to deal with it myself. In hindsight tells me, though, that actually probably they would have wanted, or they wanted to know, and would have tried to help in some way. But I took the opinion as I didn't want to worry my mum and dad, kept myself to myself, and just got on with it. So when your mum goes, that might not be for years and years and years. You might go firstly, but don't worry too much. It will hurt big time. But as time will go on, you'll just have to learn. Somehow you learn to live with it. You do. All right, Lee? I also noticed on your Facebook, Lee, it says, Lee hopes that if he's reincarnated, it's a cat, then all I have to worry about is peeing, pooing, eating, hissing and scratching. Have you got, because I've got two cats, Tiny and JD. Tiny's really old. Not JD, sorry, JD's the one that she died, she got killed last year by a dog. But I do have two cats here, Katie and Tiny. One's really old, she's over 20, and the others are quite young. She's over there at the moment cleaning herself, which is not a very pleasant sight, actually. Nice to hear from you, Lee. Welcome along. If you come back as a cat, I will allow you to be one of my cats, and you will be very well treated, let me tell you that. All right? Once again, that email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. All right, Matty in Australia, Tasmania. How are you, sir? A lot of emails coming in from Matty. I'm falling behind with your emails, Matty. I really am having trouble keeping up with you, my friend. He says, how are you? I just watched your show, one of your shows. What do you mean by burden to a country? Yes. I was saying on a previous show that when you emigrate, say, I mean, I'd love to emigrate to Australia, okay? But I've got a couple of problems there. Number one, I'm now over 45, and they do have a 45-year-old cut-off point, although I gather there is other ways to kind of get in. Number two, I don't really have a skill that you require. I have had a look at the list. There's nothing that says chat shows or DJs, but you seem to want people from kind of all walks of life: hairdressers, technicians, engineers, builders, plasterers. You do seem to want a lot of people there. Unfortunately, although I did work for British Telecom for 10 years, but that was 15 years ago, and technology has moved on now. So I'm probably not up with it, so I don't really have a skill. So I couldn't do something like that unless, I suppose, I don't know how else it was work with the sponsoring and all that business. Or I gather if you have quite a lot of money, you could go in then. But by burden to a country, what a country would not want is for someone to go over there, not work and be sick. Because then you are costing that country to live there. Do you see what I mean? What they want is fit people who can work. They don't want shirkers, shall we call them. People who go up there, don't want to work, and suddenly become ill. So that's what I mean by burden to a country, all right? Matty says, sorry to hear about your mum and family. I hate it when... Oh, yes, talking about when mum was ill. I hate it when at the hospital waiting list that someone could be dying and that the hospital wouldn't care less if you needed urgent assistance. Well, I don't think it's the hospital doesn't care. The trouble is, everything is to do with money now. Everything has to pay. And I do wonder how it all worked in the past, when people would be ill, when they would get seen to very quickly, and why, and you know, things like the war, World War I and World War II, we just went out there. From what I gather from the history books, there's no mention of money or anything like that. We just went and did these things to save our own country. Now they'd all be scrambling around looking, oh, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for that? And all that business. I'm not quite sure how all that works with money and stuff like that. So I very much doubt that hospitals don't want to not help you. Okay, but it's all to do with money. All to do with money. Matty says, someone could be dying and that the hospital wouldn't care less if you need urgent assistance. Some hospitals wouldn't be able to take you straight away because I think it's more to do with the government health system, that we are losing nurses and I think hospitals are closing. There was once on the news at La Trobe Hospital here in Tasmania, Australia, that it had news on about the crisis of it closing, but it hasn't happened yet. Well, I hope it doesn't, my friend. He says, why can't they visit you at home rather than hospital? It makes me sad and angry that people can't help, like the government system is hopeless. Why do we vote? You vote because you can vote and you try to make a change. We've got a lot going on here in the UK at the moment. A lot of people think the Conservative Party and the Labour Party are the same. Okay, there's hardly any difference. But you must use your vote. People died in wars so that you could go and vote. So whenever you get the opportunity, you must vote. You have to look. I mean, it must be that even if you don't like a lot of what one particular political party does, there must be one that you would prefer over the other. Even something little, you must always use your vote. All right, Matt? On the subject of ready meals, which we discussed, he says, with those ready meals, is it a health issue of using a microwave too much to cook food? Someone told me. Don't know. Some people say if you do vegetables in a microwave, it destroys all the goodness. I personally go along that route. I might be wrong. See now, there's a bee right next to me there, literally inches from my face, and it's climbing over the flowers, collecting the nectar, and it's not taking a blind bit of notice of me. Look, I told you, didn't I? If I'm quiet, you might even be able to hear it buzzing. Did you hear that? Right next to my face, it's back again. Here it comes back again. Look at it. Little bee collecting its pollen. Look at that. It's not bothered at all, is it? Just wants to get on with its work. Did you hear it flying past them? Yeah, I think it's preference, really. I personally believe that microwaves do destroy a lot of the nutrients in food. Other people would say they don't. So I think the jury's out on that. I do cook most stuff on the cooker or in the oven. Now and again, I do use the microwave to make porridge and scrambled eggs. And that's really about all. Porridge and scrambled eggs. Okay? Let's see. Oh, we were talking about banks as well, and he says, see, all banks only care about is money. They don't care. They like to see people in debt and don't have a life and be on the streets. That's my view of what some of these big banks are doing. And when they send you threats and nasty letters to people, now why would a bank be nasty to its customers? This makes me very angry. Banks are supposed to look after their customers. Yes and no. I think banks do need to look after their customers, but all the banks want at the end of the day is their money back. No one twisted anyone's arm and said, you must borrow money from this bank. On the other hand, I do feel that it is too, or has been recently, far too easy to borrow money. So I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other there, okay? Do banks look after their customers? I think they try, but all the banks want is their money back. They lent you money, they want it back. I do think that. As for looking after customers, banks are a business. They are not a charity. Banks are there. I don't think they are there to look after customers. Banks are there to make money. The same as going into McDonald's. All right? McDonald's are not there to make sure you get a really good meal. They are there to make money. They are a business. Your mum cooks your food, right? Your mum is cooking your food to give you a good meal. Your mum is not cooking your food to make money. It's the same with the banks. The banks are there, they are a business, they are there to make money, okay? Matty says, and like some accounts, like a Visa debit card, like using your own money, you can still get into debt if you have low funds available. But it's best to use it with a lot of money back up in the account rather than overdrawing it with bank fees. Yeah, I mean, again, with the bank fees, I think bank fees in the past have been astronomically high. Far too high. I fail to see how a bank can charge you £25 for writing a letter. That to me is over the top. How on earth they can justify that it's cost £25 to write that letter? And if it has cost the bank £25 to write a letter, then they are doing something wrong. Then get your house in order. How does it cost £25 to write a letter? And don't you be telling me that someone's sitting there writing these letters out, because they're not. They're already pre-made and all you do is add a name at the top and sign it at the bottom. Don't lie to me. £25 is not good fee to write a letter. However, those charges have come down. And I think it is made clear to people like you and me that if you do this, then you will get a charge. I tell you, Matt, I never have bank charges because I know I watch how much is in the account. When it gets low, I stop using it. They don't get a penny out of me, mate. They really don't. And that is, you see, a lot of it's down. It's got to be down to the customer as well. Can't just be down to the bank. It must be down to the customer as well. You must not spend money you haven't got. That's what Dad and Mum taught me. And it sorted me out. People owe thousands of pounds. How on earth do you do that? I know someone, a friend of mine, your young Carl. He's about you. He's 21, round your age, and he's in Manchester, and he's got some of those store cards. And now and again, he'll pay something off, and a few days later, he'll take the same card out and go and use it again. So it's costing him money all the time. Costing him money all the time, mate. Matty did have a bit of trouble with credit cards at one point, but he's checked his credit rating and he said it's clean, so you're lucky with that, my friend. He says, I also like listening to United Kingdom people talk. Accents. British people have good accents. I can pick up your accents from reading books, like from Britain and etc. I love your accents. He says, and this is a bit odd here, I like bananas. How have you gone from accents to bananas, Matty? I love it. And now it's allergy season here in Australia. I hate allergy season of spring. I always sneeze, cough and have blocked nose. Sometimes at work it gets worse because I'm a postal worker for Australian Post. And he says, on this, remember talking about earwax, he says, in my opinion, earwax cleans your ears. Yeah, I suppose so. It kind of cleans your ears, doesn't it? It just stops the muck getting in there. But how could they clean them? It just makes a mess. I know what you mean, Matt. I know what you mean. He says, I like the reaction of what you did if someone sent you in food that is watching your show. Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a city boy sometimes. I do eat the marmalade that Joy sends in, as you know. You did the act from the Wicked Witch of Oz, Wizard of Oz. You really do look like and sound like her. Well, of course, Matty, you do know I am really a witch. Oh, yes. I've been called a bad old witch many times, dear. Straight after here, I know, like, you see the little film on the video side of things. You see the little film of me cycling off. Well, really, I then stop at the end of the road and then I jump on a broomstick and fly across the houses. Oh, one of the cats is here. Hello, darling. She's trying to get up on my lap. Are you coming up here for the last bit of the show or what? Katie? No. Hey? You talking? Come up here. Come on then, quick. Come on. You coming up? Oh, no. No, she's not coming up now. She's chatting away down there. Do you hear her meowing then? Let me see. Yes, I am a witch. I might even come and visit you on my broomstick one day. Be warned. He says, you would sound different if you had an Australian accent. It would be like my voice, LOL. But I definitely like your accent, Chris. I can pick up British accents from reading magazines from Britain and internet websites from Britain. Good day to you. How's that for an Australian accent? It's not too bad, is it? Because I've got lots of cousins over there, you see. I too actually love accents. I quite like a Liverpool accent. I think that sounds very sexy, Liverpool accent. Matt says, how do scientists and pharmaceutical companies that make tablets for people when they're unwell from the doctor, how do they know how to make each tablet different from another tablet? And how do they make tablets? Tablets, now I know the answer to this because years and years ago when I was little boy, my dad said, do you know how they make pills, son? And I said, no, I don't. And it's powder, isn't it? It's all powder crushed together and stuck together. That's how they make it. It's all powder. How do they know what to put in? Well, they do experiments. They experiment on things and, I have to say, people. If you want to, you can go to certain clinics and you can go to certain clinics and you can be paid money to test out tablets. I did have a friend do that once. His name was Lee, actually. And he went to a local clinic and they were testing out headache tablets. And what they would have to do is give him an injection to, excuse me, give him an injection to induce a headache, and then he'd get a stomping headache. And then they would give him pills and see how he reacted to them. You get paid for that. I think it was quite good money. It's £1,000 for about 2 weeks' work, and that was 8 years ago. So I don't know how much it is now, but I personally wouldn't want to do that. Usually, you get people like students and people like that do that sort of thing who are a little bit desperate for the money. Some people would say, you know, you shouldn't experiment on humans. Well, if you didn't, you'd never have any new drugs or medical things. So, I mean, it is something that has to be done, okay? And I think people are paid well for that. He says, I'm asking you these questions because you have a brain like a robot and you know everything in the world just like God. Well, I think that's going a bit too far, dear. I'm certainly not God, and I don't know everything. Just most things, Matty, just most things, all right? He says, I saw the electric blanket. You showed us that black thing the other day on your last show. He says, it's also funny that your microphone is getting closer and closer to your big head so that we can hear you clearly. We are not deaf, he says. I may get a headache if you don't stop talking. And we can also see you too on camera, so don't muck up the camera. How did you create your website, unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk? Okay, that was quite easy. I signed up. I had a look if the name United Kingdom Talk was available, and it was. So I signed up to that, and you get the name, and you have to pay money for that. And then I signed up to Cat's coming round here for what do you want attention for, darling? You hungry? You got food over there, haven't you? She's coming round here for attention. Do you want to say hello? Come up here. Katie, come here. Where are you? Come here. Come up. Right, come up there. Come and say hello. There we are. This is Katie. This is I'm holding her now in front of the microphone. She's white, black and brown, isn't you? Eh? Kiss, kiss. Can you listen to her purring? Listen. Can you hear that? Oh, she's now licking the microphone. Can you hear her purring? Purr. Kiss, kiss. Hey? Are you happy now you're up here? Huh? Funny cat she is today. What's wrong with you today? All friendly and purring, ain't you? It's kind of... She likes a rough stroke on her head as well, didn't you? Now, where were we on here? Oh, yes. And then I signed up to a company called Libsyn. Now, you can find that at www.libsyn.com, and they host the podcast. Now, by that, I make this program, then I send it to Libsyn, and it stays on their computers, and anyone who wants it then downloads it. Or indeed YouTube. So that's how I made UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. All right. You might be able to help Matty here, because he wants to know, why do we call universities universities? Does it mean the whole world is a university like we call it a universe? It's bigger than your head, the universe, he says. And also, why do cats chase mice? Why do cats, when you open a can of tuna or something, know what it is before you even open it? That's true. It is true. And are they daft when they chuck spazzos at dogs? Because cats think they can rule the earth. They certainly do. This one's ruling me. It's on my lap at the moment. And I think that's where we're going to have to leave it there, because we've run out of time. As always, thanks very much for your emails. Looks like another email catch-up programme on the next show. We did have a birthday as well. Toby's girlfriend. It's her birthday. I'll have to sing for you on the next show. I hope that's all right. We've got an email here from Gloria, Wayne, some more from Matty, Amy. Oh dear. So all those coming up in the next show. Oh, Paul Moore's with us as well. Another one from Young Lee. Oh, there's so much to get through here. Fingers crossed on the next show, okay? Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk is the email address. See you on the next show. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye-bye now.